Good morning. Good morning. Getting myself situated here. Uh-oh. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm messing with my hair, which probably means I'm a little nervous sometimes. I don't know why, because I like doing Talk About It Tuesday. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I was rushing a little bit this morning, though, as I get myself situated and together. Good morning. So I am playing. Let me say this. I have been derelict in my flower duties. I honestly have just been so busy, ridiculously so. Even though busyness can be an excuse for a lot of things, I have not made time to pick up flowers. So I missed my flowers. And hopefully you miss them too. I don't know. You may not. So the song I'm playing in the background is Anita Wilson. And it's called All About You. And the lyrics of the chorus say, I will pursue what pleases you, do what you tell me to do, because I realize that it's all about you. How many of us tell God that we will pursue what God, what the divine, what the Spirit tells us to? Because we realize that it's all about God anyway. It's all about the divine. It's all about Spirit anyway. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Pastor Lisette of Restoration Fellowship, RVA, and it is Tuesday, Talk About It Tuesday, and I was looking forward to this morning, I think because I had an experience this weekend that reminded me of exactly what the singer Anita Wilson said. That I will do what God has called me to do because I realize that it's all about God. And so this morning, I just wanted to share with you, as I'm even sharing with myself, because sometimes you got to encourage yourself, is you have influence, right? And recognize that your influence in the world makes a difference. I read an article on the site called On Being, ONBEING, and the author was basically talking about the way that we have influence 3 feet around us. And what I realized from reading that article in reflection of my weekend is that we have the power to influence the people that are immediately around us, even if we never get to see the fruits of that influence. I'm going to say that again because that's powerful even for me. Is that we have the influence of 3 feet around us at any given time. And even though our influence may be felt, we may never experience the impact or the benefit of our influence on others. Now, here is the challenge for me, and the thing that I want us to talk about today on Talk About It Tuesday is how do, number one, we take care of ourselves? How do we build ourselves up? How do we make sure that we are being poured into, that we are caring for ourselves, that we are renewing ourselves? That is number one essential. What are you doing to make sure that you are okay? What are you doing to make sure that you are connected to people who are holding you accountable, who are supporting you, who are walking with you, who are loving you, who are holding you accountable, but also seeing the gifts and the graces and the talents that you have, and not influencing, but pushing you to live fully into your call and your purpose. So that's the first thing. One, you got to take care of yourself, right? Number two, the second thing about this whole concept of influence, I want you to talk about how much of a responsibility do we have in number one, in the difference between influencing somebody and convincing somebody. You see, to influence somebody is to just simply somehow shed some light on something, somehow impact them in a way that you may not ever see. But trying to convince somebody is to really pull them to your side, to get them to believe exactly what you believe. And I'm not sure that influence and convincing are the same thing, or if we should be about the work of convincing. And then the third thing is, where does spirit come in? How do we really move outside of ourselves, outside of our emotions, outside of our expectations, to allow God to do God's perfect work? Because even when we are in positions of influence, even common everyday influence, just simple things that people know about you, like speaking, like people know that I'm going to speak when I come in a room. They know that about me. People know that that I have a quick wit about myself, but they also know that I'm very caring and I'm very kind. And so what I am asking you and myself, right, to reflect on and think about is, at what point do we allow God to do God's perfect work even after we have done our own work? And so, good morning, Timothy. I agree. Amen. Influence to me would form a deeper impact. Exactly. And I think that our role in influence is actually just to, if I was to use the biblical example, is to simply plant a seed, right? So influence is that way that we plant a seed for someone else to come and water it, and maybe someone else to come and to reap the harvest from that, right? And so here is what my weekend has taught me that that I'm still wrestling with this morning, and asking us to talk about together, is that even when you know that God has called you to a certain place to try to influence a particular group of people, how do you take care of yourself? And how do you stop so that God can begin? Because our 3 feet of influence is only going to go so far. And when we leave that space, or we go on to a separate space, or we go on and we're living our lives, and we are doing the things that we need to do, whether it's getting our education or going to work or planning our life and our goals and just trying to live daily, that the influence that we have on a daily basis really does matter. And so I'm hoping that that something that I'm sharing this morning will get you to talk about the importance of, one, some people may not even think that they have influence. And let me say this to you. Just because a person has a title, just because a person has a degree, just because a person makes a certain amount of money, just because a person drives a certain car, does not mean that they have influence. Influence is not solely about external markers of popularity or education or money or the number of people that you may know. It is truly about who you show up to be in the world. Now, I have somebody knocking at my door this morning, which is not normal for me, considering that my apartment complex is going under renovation. So forgive the knock on the door. And it looks like I'm gonna have to wrap this up so that I can answer the door and get them to do that. That's the beauty of Facebook Live, right? That you get to actually see life in motion, that you don't have to. Good morning.
I'm the painter. We got started on you yesterday, didn't quite finish.
Okay, come on.
Sorry, come on in.
So sorry about that. I'm on Facebook Live, so sorry about that. So so the painters are here to do what they need to do, and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. And I'm grateful that y'all were patient enough to stay with me here on Facebook Live on Talk About It Tuesday. You never really know how life is gonna show up. And so as they wrap it up and I'm going to wrap it up, I want to say that our idea of influence, and particularly the influence that God has uniquely placed on your life, because you do have influence. The people around you that know you are appreciative of your presence in their life. That the people that you come in contact with, that you may have some interesting discussions for, they may value your perspective. The people that you work with, or the people that you see at the grocery store, or the people that you come in contact with on a consistently regular basis. Like I go and get ice every morning at the 7-Eleven. And the lady behind the desk sees me and she says, "Good morning, baby." And I say, "Good morning." And she said, "Have a good day." But you never know how that can influence someone's life. And so as you go about your day to day, as you finish up, I won't say finish up because they're finishing up, as you think about what we've talked about today, I'm asking you to talk about what your influence is. What has God called you to do in this world? Who has God called you to be? And in being that person, who are you influencing in the moment? Because you never know the impact that you just being you, with all of your brilliance, with all of your kindness, with all of your love, with all of the things that you bring to this world, that all of the uniqueness of why God created you, that your influence matters. And one last thing I will say that directly comes from my experience on Saturday, and that is, don't let anybody else, I don't care who they say they are, I don't care what title they say they have, don't let anybody take away from you what God has put in you. Don't let anybody tell you that you are not worthy of God's love. Don't let anybody convince you that the Bible somehow has said something about you that they have chosen to interpret. Don't let anybody with any title anywhere allow their words to take you to a place where you feel that you are not loved, where you are not fully accepted, where you are not fully affirmed. Because the God that I know, the words in the Bible, the people that I know, the community that I live in would say otherwise. That you are loved, that you are affirmed, that all of us are works in progress, and that at the end of the day, the words that we say, the life that we live, it all makes a difference and it all matters. We do, you do influence somebody. And so I'm asking you to talk about that today, how you can influence somebody in your circle, and realize that, number one, you've got to take care of yourself. Number two, you've got to realize that your influence is beyond just the immediate, that you can see that your impact goes beyond just that initial interaction with someone or a group of someone. And number three, to allow God, to allow the divine or spirit to come into the moment and let God do what God's got to do. And sometimes for somebody like me that's I have control challenges. I always want to know how the story's going to end. And so talk about that today. The painters are here in my apartment. I'm so grateful that some of you were patient enough as I had to open the door and let them in because they're renovating our apartments where I live. And so I'm Pastor Lisette of Restoration Fellowship, RVA. I'm asking that you all join us on Sunday, July 30th at 3 p.m., 1407 Sherwood Avenue, which is Diversity Richmond. We are going to be talking about faith, church, spirituality, and mental health. Mental health. The church does not talk about the realness of mental health. The idea that some of us are impacted by anxiety and depression. Some of us have families that family members and loved ones and friends that are impacted by it. And we need support from our church family, from our community of faith. We need some tools and some tips on how to deal with that and how to live a full life, bringing both our mental health and our spirituality, our faith and church into the conversation. So it's going to be a panel, there's going to be food, and it's going to be good community conversation. So we ask that you join us on Sunday at 3 o'clock. And then I'll be back here on Tuesday. We have some exciting things coming up at Restoration Fellowship, and we're really excited to share that with the community and look forward to continuing to do Talk About It Tuesday. So have an amazing day. Remember that you have influence and that your influence does make a big impact on the people around you. This is Pastor Lisette. Have an amazing day, and I will see you next week.